You're not perfect.
Welcome back to part 2 of the childhood trauma series. In my original childhood trauma video, I went over some of the most mortifying, horrifying, and not so scary that they're scary things that kept me up at night when I was a little kid, like Slappy or Megabyte. And if I'm being perfectly honest, a lot of those things still scare the crap out of me to this day. So, in honor of the month of October, we're gonna be looking at some spooky shit.
Oh no! There's no more gum! What am I gonna do, Squish? What am I gonna do?
You know what I heard?
I can't live without gum. It's one of the 9 basic ooze groups. I'll die without it. Oh no!
Oh, for a second there, I thought you said...
Boy, that baby snail really knows how to slime you.
Now, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of you are gonna be like, what in the hell is a bump in the night? And I'm gonna tell you what that is in a later video, but to sum things up, Bump in the Night was basically a stop-motion television show that aired for a very short time in the early 90s. It was about a green and nasty frog-like man monster named Mr. Bumpy who lived under a boy's bed, consumed copious amounts of sweaty socks, and had a blue blob named Squishington as a best friend who lived in a freaking toilet and was also friends with a comfort doll named Molly Coddle, aka Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. The characters got up to zany antics and adventures in the boys' room, and it was one of those shows that you just have to watch for yourself because explaining it is like, what the fuck? So while there were a lot of weird, uncanny faces on this show, one character in particular always creeps me out.
Halt, Scarflaw. Your reign of rule breaking is at an end.
Destructo. He was like this freaking psychotic, hot-tempered robot that would always try and strangle the living ass out of Mr. Bumpy. He wasn't really an antagonist per se, but he was like an extreme commando Squidward type of buzzkill character who always liked to ruin people's fun. It's like they saw that nightmare of a movie, Small Soldiers, and were like, yeah, we could do something like that. Not only was he unsettling to watch, but he had like this weird obsession and sexual attraction to Molly Coddle the comfort doll. So seeing this brooding and scary robot try to kill Mr. Bumpy and bully the heck out of everyone while also having an insane hard-on for the comfort doll was like...
Miss Molly, wait for me.
And that episode where he was rewired and wanted to be a good guy, nightmare fuel.
Oh, this is just what I've always wanted.
Stop it. Get some help.
And to make things even scarier, he was voiced by Jim Cummings.
Aren't you gonna say hello? Oh, come on, bucko.
Pennywise the Clown, also known as It, was the titular villain from Stephen King's 1986 horror novel known as It. Before the 2017 film, the character made an appearance in the 1990s film adaptation of the book and was played by actor Tim Curry. Smashing. I was way too young to have been able to watch this movie, but every October I would somehow stumble across Tim Curry's portrayal of this horrifying character. I couldn't avoid it. No pun intended. I never even watched the movie. The film was released years before I was born, but single images of this character would scare the crap out of me and would constantly catch me off guard. I remember there were 2 absolute no-nos during October, and that was no channel surfing at night because you'd stumble across some weird shit, and scrolling to the last page of the adult section of those Halloween flyers they'd leave at your doorstep, because 9 times out of 10 there would be a creepy Pennywise costume in there, and that would terrify me. We had to throw the entire flyer away, the whole thing was tainted. Something about his light bulb head, his clown body, and this. How to make a perfect villain. Ostracize him from your clan and eventually he'll start a revolt. of 1,000 barrels. Manky Kong is a creepy orange orangutan found in the Donkey Kong Country series, and according to his character bio, he's described as being a Kong reject orangutan. The Manky Kongs are a highly dangerous species of ape that use quick movements and barrels to intimidate their prey. They shoot a series of barrels obstructing your path, and the only way to beat them is through Diddy and Donkey's jump mechanic. Hey man, if my fellow Kongs disowned me, I'd be pretty salty too, but you can't just go around throwing barrels at people. On top of being a reject, Manky Kong's name is apparently derived from the words mangy and skanky. So to add insult to injury, not only are they exiled Kongs, but can you imagine them having to walk around hearing other monkeys whisper stuff like, "Don't look now, it's Skanky Kong." There are so many creepy things about Manky Kong. Everything from the way he moves, to the odd disproportions of his body, his mangled smile, and his piercing eyes. I used to dread running into these guys. Speaking of running into and fast-moving things that make me uncomfortable, I can't tell you how much my heart would race at the stop-and-go station level because I was afraid of running into the rock rocks. I mean, what the heck is that? These Kremlings were so terrifying, and they would rapidly run back and forth, and all you'd hear was their feet pitter-pattering and you'd see their piercing red eyes. On top of that, they'd react to the stop-and-go barrels found in the level, so whenever you'd hit the stop button, the rock rocks would freeze momentarily, allowing you to get by unscathed. But if you're not careful and the sign switched to go, you'd find yourself in a lot of trouble. I'd always try to play through this level as quickly as possible, and you really got this huge adrenaline rush trying to keep the signs on stop. Dodge the Kremlings and crab traps. Crab traps? The Deke logo sequence. Listen, I know some of these things on my list are completely justifiable in me being creeped out by them, because a lot of the things I mention are just downright uncanny. But you can't tell me that this didn't used to creep you out at least a little bit. With the amount of Deke YouTube clips that exist, I find it hard to believe that this commercial didn't leave some kind of impact on you guys. For those of you who don't know, Deke Entertainment, not to be confused with Dick Entertainment, that's not a thing. Dick! Was an international film and television production company, and they had a series of bumpers that they'd slap at the end of all the shows they'd produce like any other production company. I grew up mostly exposed to this one in particular. I know the intent is that it's supposed to be a humble little advertisement with an innocent child sleeping in their bedroom, but something about the quick pan, the motionlessness of the kid, he's like not moving. The fact that it's so dark you can barely make out the figures in his room is just so uncanny and so unsettling, and then there's that music that starts where the first three notes don't really seem to go together. It's creepy. It's like one of those paintings where the longer you stare at it, the more you notice the weird things that are on the page. And growing up in a time when TV was more commonly used than the internet and YouTube didn't exist, the only times I'd ever see this logo was at the end of certain shows like The Big Comfy Couch or even Sailor Moon. The commercial doesn't last long at all, so it's really easy to miss everything going on in the picture. But with the power of YouTube, I got a closer look at this thing, and I'm probably even more creeped out than I was before. Look at this, you've got Mr. Bumpy? I didn't even know there was a dog over there. What the f— and a thumb. The last thing we're going to be taking a look at tonight is by far the scariest. It still creeps me out to this day, and I can't look at pictures of this thing for very long without feeling weird.
Transmutate. It is me, your friend.
Who remembers Transmutate from Beast Wars, aka Beasties? You know, that CGI take on Transformers by Mainframe Entertainment. The same guys that brought you Reboot and Beast Wars. You know, as if early CGI wasn't uncanny enough as it is, someone thought it was a good idea to design a character like this to further scare all the little children. Transmutate wasn't even a villain, he just looked unsettling. Basically, he came from a damaged pod, not allowing him to fully transform like the rest of the Transformers, apparently reducing its mind to infancy, leaving them utterly innocent in personality and able to grasp only simple concepts, with their trusting and curious nature being both a boon and a handicap. He's fucking scary, man. Everything from his walk, his face, his voice. I know that the purpose of this character was for some sort of deep allegory or metaphor, but like, you really think a kid would be able to fully grasp the subtext of this episode with this David Lynch of a monster flying around? You gotta be joking me. And that concludes part 2 of the childhood trauma series. I think I've shared enough nightmare fuel for tonight. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like the video and, subscribe and do all that fun stuff so you can be up to date with my content. More Halloween content is on its way, you just have to be patient. And until next week, I'll see you guys later.